I used to think lies were like graffiti. You could scrub them off if you got to them early. Turns out, they're more like parking tickets. Ignore them, and they multiply. And somewhere, there's always a clock running in a concrete garage you never knew was keeping time on you. I'm Eric Dalton, 36, network engineer out of Detroit. My hands are clean because my code is clean, but my keyboard has the faint glaze of a man who lives on coffee and production outages. I like neat terminal prompts, the tigers even when they break my heart, and the hum of the Lodge Freeway at midnight when the city finally exhales. My ex-wife, is Melissa, 37, a marketing coordinator at a boutique agency in Midtown with a creative director who wears vintage band tees to meetings with car companies. We've got 2 kids, Nora, 9, who can turn any patch of grass into a ballet stage, and Max, 7, a Lego attorney already assembling arguments from blocks and stubbornness. If you ask me when this started, I'll say when I stopped trusting the light above our stove. There are nights you stand in your own kitchen and feel like you're in a motel, the kind where the bed's too close to the door and the ice machine rattles like ghosts. She was working late. The phrase hung in the air between us with the weight of something that had fallen before. In Detroit, late is a shape that can mean honest hustle or slippery slope. I wanted to believe the first because belief keeps a family from waking the kids. Friday nights blurred. Content calendar emergencies, client calls, budgets, due Monday by EOD. I'd pour cereal for the kids Saturday morning and hear the click of Melissa's heels, smell her perfume, the citrus one she bought after her promotion, and watch her thumb a message before she'd say, "Just need a few hours at the office, babe. Overtime's killing everyone." Overtime. I know overtime. It's empty chairs, monitors humming, the building's lungs. It's the cleaning crew's carts and the coffee machine giving up after midnight. It's not the photos she posted with the team at a bar in Greektown, cocktails sweating under blue light, captions like, "We earned it." "Looks fun," I said one Saturday, watching Max tear a waffle in half like a judge splitting a verdict. "It was just one drink," she said. "We shipped. We celebrated. I went back." "Back to where?" Nora asked, syrup on her chin. "Back to adult things," Melissa said, and kissed the top of Nora's head so fast the answer couldn't stick. You learn to stop asking when the answer comes pre-packaged. You also learn to check your own systems. Ours lived in a folder called Family that sat inside a root directory called Life, which is romantic until you realize how much of your marriage is a shared password. For years, we had a single Tesla account, Model 3, blue, the one we convinced ourselves counted as sensible because we bought it used. We liked the car for different reasons. She liked the silent glide. I liked the telemetry. The app logged everything. The way my monitoring tools log a network, routes, charges, climate events, driver profiles, seat positions. I added her driver profile for comfort and safety mirrors, seat rake, steering sensitivity. It was a nod, like programming home. When trust is intact, telemetry is trivia. When it's gone, it's the only honest witness in the room. The first time I looked was a Sunday night when the kids were building a cardboard castle that wouldn't survive a sneeze. Melissa had said she was heading to the office from 1 to 5. At 3:47, I opened the app to precondition the cabin for her drive home because Detroit in March eats fingers. The map blinked, then held steady on a pin nowhere near Midtown. A motel off I-96, the kind you can see from the highway but never stop at unless your life has drifted the way a car drifts when you take your hands off the wheel. Recent destinations glowed like a confession. Home, office, school, the motel, twice. I didn't breathe for a second long enough to count as a new weather system. Then I locked my phone, made a dinosaur for Max out of a toilet paper roll, and set a timer to see if silence could be measured. Monday, after drop-off, I walked the perimeter of my own mind. I'm good with logs. It's what I do. I stared hard at what I had the right to see. Shared accounts? Yes. Family car? Yes. Her phone? No. Her laptop? No. Our shared iCloud drive? That's where it got interesting. In the family folder was a PDF called Building Access Report .pdf, a file that existed because Melissa had saved it there months ago to print it at home when our printer still cooperated. She'd forgotten to delete it. The report covered bad. It was a file left in the open. I opened it with hands that wanted to shake and didn't because engineers know their tremors by defects. The report sang quietly. Timestamps, card numbers, entry points. Saturdays she'd claimed overtime. The office was a ghost town. 0 entries, 0 exits. Sundays 2. Evenings after 6. A handful of swipes on other floors, not her agencies. Nothing that lined up with her stories. The data wasn't jealous. It was precise, and precision is a mercy when everything else is a plea. I screen captured the pages and stored them in a folder called Proof that I locked behind a password I've never used anywhere else. I didn't want to be the man who breaks in. I wanted to be the man who observes. The next weekend brought, "We're so close on this pitch," and a soft kiss that asked me to approve the lie it rode in on. I hugged her without nodding and watched the garage close behind her. When the kids settled into a movie, I opened the Tesla app and watched the little blue icon walk itself across the map. It didn't turn at Cass. It didn't brave the potholes near the Masonic. It slid onto the freeway and took the westbound exit again, as routine as brushing teeth. The car wasn't cheating on me. It was just nervous with the truth. You tell yourself a lot of stories in a car that isn't moving. I told myself maybe it was her friend's crisis, a harmless thrill, a place to cry without waking kids. Then I zoomed in on the motel's pin and saw, behind it, a coffee shop with a brick front and plants that tried their best against winter. It said, "Open until 11." Across from the motel, with a clear line of sight to the entrance. I closed the app and gathered laundry like that could fix anything. Monday morning, I made an appointment with a process server. The firm was run out of a small office on the 3rd floor of a building that used to be a glove factory and now made paper of a different kind. The receptionist had a buzz cut and a tattoo that read, "No shortcuts." The server who walked out to meet me was a woman about my age with scarred knuckles and kind eyes. "I'm Denise," she said, and shook my hand like she knew what it was like to watch herself from outside. "We do 3 tries standard. You want us to serve at her office?" "No," I said. "There's a cafe across from the motel on Schoolcraft. She goes there before or after. Weekends, late afternoons. I'm not trying to humiliate her. I just want it done clean." "Cafe is neutral ground," Denise said. 10 feet from a table and we're good. You want photos?" "No photos," I said. "Just the affidavit." "You a unicorn," she said and smiled. "Most folks want fireworks." "I don't want blood," I said. "I want respect." "Respect is quieter than people think," she said. "We'll make it quiet." At home, I wrote the petition the way Marceline would later say made her job easy. Dissolution, no fault, joint legal custody requested, shared physical custody with co-parenting plan, mediation requested with licensed therapist for children. I didn't sugarcoat the why. I didn't weaponize it either. Irreconcilable differences is such a polite phrase, you forget it can carry the weight of a building. Denise asked for coordinates. I sent screenshots of the Tesla destinations, hours the car slept in the motel's lot, and the cafe's open sign reflections if you zoomed in far enough on Google Street View to see the strain. I gave her a simple description: 5'6", hair to the shoulders, winter coat camel-colored, bag with a loud chain. I felt like I was ordering the downfall of someone I still loved from a catalog. "Serve of process in the cafe across from a motel," Denise said into her recorder later. "Counselor, we've seen worse." Saturday was burritos and Legos again. At 4:17, the app's arrow slid toward the same exit. I told myself she was sick of me telling myself things. I told the kids they could have another half hour of screen time because lying to them now would be a second sin. My phone buzzed at 5:04 with a message from an unknown number. "It's Denise. Paper served." She cried. She said, "This is just sex." I said, "These are just papers." I told her to call you or her lawyer. Affidavit will be ready by Monday. You okay? I wasn't. I was functional. I wrote back, "Thank you. Please send the affidavit when it's ready. I appreciate you doing it there." Denise, I've done driveway carnivals. This? This was humane. I put the phone face down and made hot chocolate for the kids with too many marshmallows. They asked where Mom was. "Finishing a thing," I said. "She'll be home by bedtime." She wasn't, but the ice maker made a sound like somebody applauding behind a door, and I decided I could accept applause from appliances. When she came home, it was late, and her hair looked like weather. She stood in the kitchen and pressed the papers to her chest like they burned there. "Eric," she said, "what did you do?" "I asked for a mediator," I said, "and a therapist for the kids, and joint custody, and respect. You served me at a coffee shop. I avoided your office," I said. "I avoided a lobby. I avoided your mother's house. I didn't want to turn pain into theater." "It's just sex," she said. Like Denise had predicted, "It doesn't mean anything." "It means something to our kids when you say you're at work and you're not," I said. "It means something to me when you replace the truth with a parking stub." She cried, and the crying was honest. I didn't touch her because comfort is a currency, and at that moment I couldn't afford to lie with my hands. She said his name once, quiet. "Evan." She didn't say he was her boss. She didn't have to. The office had a small cast. "I don't want to ruin you," I said. "I don't want to ruin him. I want to be a good father and a man my children understand. That's it. Everything else is paper." Sunday was a map of obligations. I took the kids to my sister's so they could get loud in a house that had a dog, and Melissa stayed home to pack a bag. We told the kids only what they deserved to hear. We were going to live near each other and make sure they had 2 safe houses, 2 sets of favorite spoons, 2 people who showed up at every school thing worth sitting through. Nora looked between us like we were actors trying new lines and said, "Do I get to decorate both rooms?" Max asked if his Legos would be allowed to cross borders. We said yes to everything that mattered. Monday, my lawyer, a quiet man named Ahmed, who lived in a spreadsheet and an espresso machine, filed our petition. He put us on a list with 1,000 other families who had fallen apart the regular way. He recommended a mediator named Charlene with a clock that ticked and a couch that looked like it had heard things. Charlene's first rule: we will not use your children's names like weapons. We nodded. Her second: we will not make permanent decisions standing in temporary pain. We nodded again, and I felt a room in my chest unlock a door. Melissa came to the first session wearing the camel coat that looked like a promise. She didn't look at me at first. When she did, the look wasn't a glare, it was a plea for an easier rewrite. "I didn't mean to lie," she said. "You scheduled the lies," I said. "Not unkind. Your calendar has more discipline than most people." Charlene held up a hand. "We're not here for the autopsy," she said. "We're here to build a plan for the living." The proof was a hum in my pocket. Badge logs, Tesla routes, Apple Pay charges from a parking lot by the motel with the sign that flickered like it was trying to leave itself. I didn't put them on the table. I didn't need to. Melissa knew what I knew. That was the odd relief of data. There's a version of this where I yell, and a version where numbers speak. I prefer versions where numbers speak. "Therapist for the kids," I said, "and a schedule that honors their sleep." "Agreed," she said. "I'll pay for the first 3 months." "I'll pay for the next 3, I said. Then we split. Charlene drew lines on a pad, built a week like an architect of sanity. Monday and Tuesday with me, Wednesday and Thursday with her, alternate weekends, handoffs at school so nobody transfers backpacks in a driveway fight. What about holidays? She asked. We eat with both families, Melissa said, and looked at me in surprise when I nodded. 2 turkeys, I said. The American dream. When session 1 ended, my phone buzzed with an email from Denise, affidavit attached. Her signature was this beautiful, swinging thing that looked like a person who knew how to end a chapter without ripping the page. Session 2. Ahmed advised us to agree on money in words we could live with. I made good money for our zip code. Melissa made modest money and now made less because her creative lead took an indefinite leave to spend more time with his wife, which was how the agency tried to breathe without choking on its own press releases. HR asked Melissa to resign for optics. She cried and signed a paper and turned in her badge. I took no victory from any of it. Losing the place you drink your morning coffee is a grief that sneaks up on people. If you need time, I said in the hallway, take it. I'll carry more for a while. The kids shouldn't feel your boss's decisions and the cost of their piano lessons. She looked up with eyes that had finally landed on a truth you can't turn into a brand story. I've been a terrible person, she said. You've been a person, I said. We're terrible in chapters. I know mine. She nodded. He said it was connection, she whispered, like the word had betrayed her, that we'd never felt so seen. I believe you felt something, I said. I also believe parking lots tell longer stories than people want them to. In the weeks that followed, my life became boring, which is a kind of holy. I cooked simple things, pasta with garlic, chicken that didn't fight the oven, green beans that squealed when you bit them. I read Magic Treehouse out loud, like all the big reveals were new to me. I showed Max how to point a flashlight at the ceiling so it looks like a UFO wants to take your fan. I made a chore chart that included Help Dad Remember to Laugh, and Nora laughed so hard she snorted. Melissa started seeing a therapist the HR rep recommended when she turned in her badge. She paid out of pocket because dignity costs. She told me at handoff in the school parking lot that she had stopped seeing Evan after his wife came to the office with eyes that looked like he'd invested them poorly. She didn't scream, Melissa said. She gave me a look I don't have words for. Some looks are essays, I said. She said. You can have the scraps. I'm washing the table, Melissa said, and I winced for both women and the table because some metaphors cut. At our third mediation, Charlene asked us to write down 10 non-negotiables about the kids. We did it, sitting at separate corners of a table so cheap it could only be a mediator's. Our lists matched more than they didn't. Bedtime consistency, no bad-mouthing the other parent. 1 sport per season, save for college, in a way that looks like love, no introducing partners for 6 months, and a rule I wrote that surprised me when I saw it in my own pen. Keep the car app for emergencies only. I explained. It feels like a violation to stare at the map, I said, and looked at Melissa to make sure the words landed without a gloat. We can leave it installed in case one of us gets stuck in a storm or a battery dies in February. But I don't want to be a man who watches dots he doesn't need to see. She nodded, and I saw a small creature in her chest exhale. Agreed, she said, and thank you. You change your profile on the car, I said, not unkind. The seat positions. It keeps logging you as driver. I'll make a new one, she said, and smiled with the kind of softness that builds lives. I'll call it Try Again. We didn't go to trial. Detroit courts are busy, and judges like seeing people solve their own small wars. We submitted our parenting plan, filed our financials, and waited for a date to become a stamp. The day the papers came in the mail, I took the kids to a Tigers game even though it was a school night. We ate hot dogs wrapped so tight they could have been non-disclosure agreements. The stadium lights made the field look like a place where rules still had meaning. In the middle of the 3rd inning, Nora leaned into my shoulder. Is this a celebration? She asked. It's an honest night, I said. Sometimes that's worth celebrating. Max asked if the car could drive itself home. I said no. Some things require hands. Melissa met us at the curb afterward. She was in jeans and a sweatshirt that said Detroit in a font that understood manufacturing. She smiled and waved and took Max's hand without moving his arm too fast, which is a thing only people who know your kid well can do. "Thank you for tonight," she said to me quietly, "for not taking this to war." "I wanted peace I could explain to them," I said. "War is too tall." "I'm sorry for all of it," she said. "The lies, the motel, the way I made you prove the obvious. I'm sorry for the ways I stopped looking," I said. "I thought if I didn't see it, it wasn't happening. That's not how networks or marriages work." We stood there in the wind that always smells like metal near the stadium and promised to keep a promise people break every day to not make our kids carry the weight of our adult cardio. She drove away with them, and the taillights traced a line that didn't cut me. I went home to a house that felt bigger, which was either healing or a trick of air. A month later, I met Denise at the cafe across from the motel to hand her a thank you card I'd written like a dad. She laughed when she read the note. "You're the only person who ever thanked me for serving their spouse," she said. "You did it with kindness," I said. "That matters." "She moved on?" she asked, nodding toward the motel that had decided to keep standing out of inertia. "She's in therapy," I said. "He's in the past. We're in the business of making sure two small people feel taller than all this." Denise tapped the counter. "Respect," she said. "You meant it." "I meant it," I said. "I didn't want blood. I wanted respect." She looked at her watch and smiled. "Truth leaves a check on the parking lot," she said. I toasted her with bad coffee, and we got back to the rest of our days. Life is less cinematic than people want you to believe. The creative director took photos off his Instagram and posted a statement that used the word recalibrate. Melissa started freelancing for small businesses who could not care less about office politics if you can fix their Yelp page. I took a promotion because a director retired early to Florida and needed a man who knew how to keep a network from acting like a child in a grocery store. The Tesla still hums. The app still lives on our phones. The recent destinations list is boring now. Grocery store, school, my sister's house, a diner that makes pancakes the size of hubcaps. If I open it, it's to preheat the cabin for my kids on mornings when the world is unkind. Once, in July, I opened it and smiled. Recent showed Tiger Stadium, even though they don't call it that on paper anymore. Some names hold better in your mouth. People ask, sometimes, like they're on a porch with sweet tea and consent to pry, why I didn't make it messy, why I didn't go to her boss, or HR, or his wife. Detroit has a small town mouth. One scream, and you hear it on Woodward and in Warren. I think about Max calling across the hall. "Dad? Can I ask you something?" And the way my stomach used to drop like an elevator. I think about Nora saying, "Are you mad at Mom?" And me wanting to say no, not because it was true, but because she's 9. I think about the way my house sounds now, less like an alibi, more like a home. It's not that I'm noble, it's that I'm tired of pretending the goal is victory. The goal was always respect. The goal was a clock that runs in the open. Once, months after the divorce decree, I parked on the 5th level of a garage downtown, and the ticket machine jammed, then coughed up 2 tickets. The clock started on both. I stuck one on my dash and handed the other to a stranger whose face said he'd been given something bigger than paper. We joked about Detroit's roads and walked away from each other with our separate minutes. I don't know why that felt like closure, but it did. We were both responsible to the same rules, at least for the next hour. We were honest together in a small way, and small ways add up. Last week, Melissa texted me a photo of Nora in a thrift store prom dress, even though she's 9, and prom is a concept, not a date. Melissa had written, "She says this is her lecture outfit for the cat." I sent back a laughing face and wrote, "Tell her the cat responds better to slides." The joke landed. Later, at pickup, Melissa handed me a paper bag with cookies Nora had made with too much vanilla, which is the correct amount of vanilla for being 9. Melissa said, "I applied for a job at the community college." Social media with no sharks. I said, "They're lucky," and meant it. There are nights I stand in my kitchen, light above the stove humming with the agreeableness of bulbs that aren't lying, and I think about that motel on I-96. It's still there. Its sign still flickers. Its room still makes stories people will never tell. And across from it, the cafe where Denise did a hard thing kindly is still pouring coffee, still asking for patience with short staff. I don't visit either. They're not cursed places. They're just chapters I've put back on the shelf. The car knows the way home without me telling it. The kids do too. That's the miracle, and it's work, and it's a little boring, and I could cry from relief. You can't scrub lies like graffiti, not really. But you can honor clocks. You can read the print on the ticket. You can decide not to ignore the second envelope the machine spits out when you're not even asking. Most days, that's enough. Most days, the truth prints itself. Most days, I just drive my kids to baseball and clap like the game we're playing is the only one, because sometimes, blessedly, it is. What matters more to you, winning in public or protecting yourself quietly? Would you have checked the telemetry on the family car if you suspected cheating? Tell me in the comments, and if this story hit you, like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.